Hello, my dear friends of Web Zurich. My name is Lucas and I work for Rockstar Recruiting. We are back from Hack Zurich that took part last weekend and are now ready to present you our current hot jobs. We are looking for senior cloud developers, professionally experienced in Java or within the .NET framework who speak German and are looking for a permanent role in Zurich. If you love working in a team-oriented environment that values the latest technology standards, and if you're up for some spontaneous Nerf gun battles, you might want to consider this one. We're also looking for a software engineer for an international, well-funded startup. If you love building state-of-the-art infrastructure solutions within an open source project using Golang, this one is for you. As always, if you want to know more about these roles, feel free to hit me up on Slack. In case you are looking for a job but none of these two, feel free to get in touch with me as well. So long, thank you very much for your attention and enjoy the talks.
All right. Thanks, Rockstar, for this, and thanks for supporting us throughout the month and years and all this like COVID stuff as well. So, again, if you want to join the conversation and join the community's active side of things between the meetups, then feel free to use webzurich.ch or webzurich.ch as your gateway to all the different things like Slack or our meetup group. Do leave comments on the YouTube videos that we put up. And we also have a live chat after party powered by Jitsi. If you want to join that, go to https://webzh.dev/afterparty after the talks are over. Last but not least, our Halloween edition meetup will be on the 30th of next month. Again, this will be a virtual event, so you can join from wherever you are. Invite your friends. And we are gathering horror stories. So grab some marshmallows, make a little bonfire. No, hold on, everyone's at home. Don't make a little bonfire. You can still eat marshmallows. I ate marshmallows without roasting them over the fire. It's still pretty good. So I guess that's safe to do. With that, I'd like to hand over to our first speaker, Guillaume, who is bringing us an interesting talk about a tool that I've actually not really, a tool that I've actually not used myself yet. And I read your proposal and I'm like, ooh, that's going to be interesting. So without spoiling it too much, feel free to give a emoji applause in the chat for Guillaume. And Guillaume, have fun. Take us off.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Martin. So one applause for me. Nice to meet you all, guys. I'm very happy to be here and to have the opportunity to talk about probably one of the best tool that you can have for mocking an API or server, which is Mockoon. So it's the one I created. So that's why it's the best on the market. So some forwards before starting the demo about why I created another API mocking tool, because there are already dozens of them. And that's always the first question people ask me. And it's quite simple, because 3 years ago, I needed something to mock an API that didn't exist at the moment, which is the most obvious use case for such a tool. And I tried using what was on the market, and you can find a lot of mockapi.com.io, .everything, and they are really, really good. There are really good tools out there. Also commercial things like Stoplight or Postman, which offers also a mocking feature. But I don't know, it was a little bit cumbersome. For example, for Postman, it was good, but still you had to create an account and you had to deploy on the cloud to get the mock API. And also cloud was completely out of the question where I was working at that time, because it was also a regulated industry and things like that, like banking. And maybe I also really wanted a side project, which is a blessing and a curse. And so I started working on this. With the goal of having a tool really easy to use, preferably desktop and open source, even if at the beginning it wasn't open source, because I had the crazy idea of selling it. And very, very quickly I open sourced it, because after realizing that I use so many libraries, tools, applications that are open source, I wanted to give something back to the community. I mean, it was obvious at that time that I would benefit from open sourcing it. So it has now, I mean, it got great success. It was slow at the beginning, and today it's beyond my expectation. It has something like 5,000 active users per month, 5,000 downloads per month, or nearly 6,000 sometimes. And I recently realized that it has been downloaded 100,000 times. So for me, it's like a small dream come true. I couldn't have expected something like that. So it's working quite well. The application is completely free. So there is a website, as you can see, with the documentation. Some bragging about the features. An official repository where you can open issues, where you can also check for the roadmap. I can send all the links also after the demo. So it's quite active, and I really try to create a community here and try to get as much feedback as I can from the user. And for example, Alexei, who is part of Web Zurich, gave me some time for an interview, which I really appreciate. So it's really for me a very rewarding project. So now I will cut this and start doing the actual demo. So as I said, the most obvious case for using the application is mocking an API that doesn't exist. For example, I had also during the interviews cases of companies that have clients API that they don't have access to, that they cannot access it. So what they do, for example, is that they import open API files, and then they can get the client's API definitions, and they even deploy Mockoon on their own infrastructure, which you will see is a little bit clunky for now. I mean, it has not been designed for that, but I mean, there are things on the roadmap that will fill this need. So there are many features. It's growing. I mean, the features list is growing. It's really hard to not over-clutter the application. I don't want it to be the next Jira where you can do everything, even if I like sometimes Jira. But my goal is always to keep the application really simple and really straightforward. The main goal at the beginning was to be able to create an API, a mock API, very quickly in 30 seconds, in 5 clicks maximum, and without creating an account, without deploying on the cloud, and this is working. So the idea behind the tool also is sometimes to refuse features that seems great, but that will completely maybe confuse the user or go beyond what the tool should do. And for example, if you ask me for complex business rule of something, that would add 7 tabs and make the thing completely complicated. I mean, I will probably answer, go and code this API for once, because if you have to work in a mocking tool for hours to replicate something, maybe you should code it. I mean, that's my philosophy. And sometimes I'm wrong and I need to implement that feature. But so I want to show you the major features and the most interesting one. So the first one is or maybe I will give you a small tour of the interface first. That will be better, probably. So there is a collapsible menu on the left. It's basically what I called environments. So it's each API you can declare, with each of them as a separated port, of course. And it's served on all the local interface. So localhost 127.0.0.1, your local IP address, etc. Here you have the root list, so you can create as many as you want. Here at the top, it's the part that is dedicated to the environment. So you can have a prefix, a global prefix for your environment. You can also define a global latency. For example, if you want to simulate slow servers, you can also define a root specific latency if you have one root which is slower. This part is the one for the defining routes, responses and rules. You will see that. And there are some settings here that I will show you later. Two big features that are hidden there, and I know they are hidden. I mean, these has come out of the interviews. I need to make them more obvious. So the first use case is that you can generate fake data and realistic data by using handlebars templating system together with faker.js helpers. So this is a library that is used to generate random everything, random numbers, first name, last name, addresses, latitude, longitude, whatever you want. And I also created a bunch of helpers specific to Mockoon that allows you to access the content of the entering request. So for example, here you can access the query param that is named total. You can also access part of the body, or you can access some query params is the one, but some URL param, for example. So it's really flexible. So I can give you here immediately an example of this call. Here you can see that I received JSON with 4 user generated. And I can, for example, request 800. It will probably be a little bit slow, but it will work. So it's really, really useful to simulate real life cases with a lot of data, with, I don't know, pagination and huge content. You can generate also whatever you want with this, because it's not tied to the JSON. You can also generate CSV, text, HTML, XML. And for example, here I generate on the CSV route 50 cities with latitude, longitude, and everything. So you can really generate any type of content you want. And also something interesting about this templating system is that it's available also in the file path, because you can serve a file or you can serve a body directly editable here. And you can also use this templating system in the headers. So you could, for example, say accepted, send a header with the accepted content type. And here you could put a helper to fetch the header accepted content type. And here, for example, I can show you an example. Depending here on the URL param named page name, I can serve different HTML files. So for example, you see here that I have a uuid.html file, which use templating inside the file to generate random UUIDs. And if I call this endpoint here, I can generate UUID. So the file is named HTML. I didn't put any HTML in the file. So obviously it's not the best demo I did, but you have an idea of what you can do with this. And yeah, multiple file generation, multiple type of file, or switching the extension depending on headers. So there are really a lot of possibilities. Also, another thing that I wanted to show you in the interface is that you have control on everything. You can use any method you want, any path you want. You can set headers for the route that are specific, but you also have environment headers that are global to one environment and apply to all the route. And they are overridden by the one you can define in a specific route. So it's really flexible. And one thing also that has been added more recently is the possibility to add multiple responses for each route. So for example, here in this route name rules/param1, you have one 200 and one 404. And so it's quite straightforward. I just changed the status code and also the content. And you can, for example, drag and drop here to define the one that will be served. So the drag and drop is not the best thing I came up with, but it will be changed soon with a checkbox, which is easier to manipulate and more obvious. But here, that's not really the topic. What I wanted to show you is that you have a rule system, which is quite simple and basic, but still interesting. For example, here, I defined one rule on each route. Here, on the 200 route, the rule says that if the param1 equals xyz, then this route will be served. And if it's something different, then you will get a 404. And I can immediately show you that it works because I checked before. So if I send test, for example, I will get the 404, content not found. And if I send XYZ, I will get content XYZ. So the rule system is quite simple. It will check each route one by one. And as soon as a rule match, it will serve this response, this specific response, and it will stop checking all the other routes. So of course, if you have one rule that catches everything at the beginning, you will get always the first response. But like this, you can, for example, define in the body multiple user and serve them depending on the parameter, the user ID, or whatever you put in root params or query params, for example. And routes can also, you can have multiple rules, and you can also say that they will be interpreted as or and, which is a very, very recent addition. Okay, so that's all for the rules. That's one detail. Mockoon is based on Express.js because Electron, it's also built with Electron, which embark Node.js. So when creating the server, I use Express.js, which was for me the most obvious choice. It's one of the oldest library out there. It's very stable, and you can do a lot of things with it. So it supports some basic patterns. For example, here you can have the S or not, and you can add whatever you want at the end. So for example, here I can show you patterns with the S, anything else, and if I remove the S, I still get the same answer. So this is also quite flexible and interesting. And then two other features I'm quite proud of is that you have some kind of recording. I mean, all the entering request and outgoing response are recorded. For now, it's only the last 50, so it's a little bit limited, but not that much. But it will also evolve in the future. But for example, you see exactly what entered in Mockoon, with which method, if it was called by a root or not, and the params, the body, and you can see exactly what Mockoon answered. And you can also see the body in an editor. And here, one interesting option is that you can mock the root. For example, everything has been coded here because obviously I was only testing things that how can I say that existed. But if I try to call something that doesn't exist, here we'll get a 404. I will see here that it wasn't coded, so there is no green tick, but I can mock it, and I will get a root. I will get a new root. By default, it gets a 404 because it was answered with a 404. So maybe this needs to be changed one day, but for now it does the job, and you get also the entering headers, and you can then call the endpoint, and normally it exists, and it's already a beginning. Then you can customize the body, and you can like that, for example, intercept 10 queries and mock them quickly. And another features that I really like, no, sorry, I need to switch to another environment. It's the fact that you can partially mock APIs. So there is a feature that I call Proxy mode, which is in the settings of the environment. And here you can define an endpoint, a URL, where you will forward all the calls that are not coked by the route that you declare here. So Mockoon will go through every route, or all of the routes, and if it's not coked by any of them, it will be forwarded here. You can even add some headers that will be append to the call made to this API, and headers that will be added to the response from this API. So it's a little bit more concrete in your mind if I show you how it works. So here I will forward to the Star Wars API, and I added an endpoint that doesn't exist on their API. Basically, you can fetch people from ID number 0 or 1 to, I don't know, maybe 100, something like that. But there is no people number, there is no person number 1000. So for example, if I call here number 50, I will get someone from the Star Wars API. But I want to add one more because the endpoint doesn't exist yet in their API, but I still want to benefit from their work. So I will forward to them, but still I intercept. And I added myself as the number 1000. So this is already also very interesting if you are mocking only partially an API. And for example, at work, I forward to the real API, but I'm mocking the authorization endpoint because locally it's harder to get a token. And so this just really easier the development. And yeah, that's basically what I wanted to show you. So there is also an import-export system. You can export and import in Mockoon proprietary format through files, but also through copy to clipboard. So you can copy to clipboard, create a new file, and paste the data. It's JSON data, and you can easily share it with coworkers. And they can just then, for example, import from clipboard, and they get exactly what you declared in your Mockoon instance. And that's also, there is no, for example, no team sharing, for example, at this moment. But I know during interviews that a lot of people found workarounds and basically share the export through Git repositories, which is working quite well. So for now, it's not completely automated, and but I mean, it does the job. So that would be one way to do it. Also, you can here see the app data folder. And by going here in storage, you can see the storage files from Mockoon, and you can easily, for example, set that to be a Git repository. And on the roadmap, I want to talk also about the roadmap because this is a very interesting point, is that soon you will be able to define, for example, different data file for different APIs. So you will be, for example, able to say that slash user slash something is the folder of first API data folder or data file, and then it can be a Git repository maybe more easily than it is right now. So that's also on the roadmap. And the biggest thing on the roadmap is the CLI. So for now, I said at the beginning that Mockoon has been deployed in infrastructure before by some folks, and it's working, but still it's quite heavy because it embarks Node.js and Chrome. I mean, it's Electron. So Mockoon is not that heavy, but still it's not the lightest CLI you can find. It's not even a CLI. So that's the focus of my work right now, to provide a small CLI that you can easily install with the NPM, and for example, integrate in your CI workflow. So for example, you can easily run integration test against a mocked API with Mockoon. That will be great, and it's coming. I cannot say soon because it's a side project, so I still need to sleep. But I hope maybe for January or something like that. And I think it would be a huge and great addition. Anyway, it's one of the most requested feature. So yes, that's the main roadmap, and also maybe some different type of endpoints, because for now everything is separated, get, post, put, for example, and there is no relation between them. For example, if you put something, it doesn't, it's not saved anywhere. For now, it's a little bit static. So the idea would be to create one endpoint that would be called CRUD, for example, and where you can, if you put, it will store in JSON the entities you put in it, and you can also delete, post, and it acts like a real CRUD endpoint. So I think that will be also perfect for, I mean, quick mocking and yeah, quick and easy mocking. So I've covered the main things I wanted to talk about. It's already 20 minutes and maybe more. Yeah, so I can also share some links at the end of the presentation, so that that's the official website. You won't have a hard time to find it. I showed you the official repository with the roadmap. There are also the documentation on the official website, and the most interesting one is the templating, because you can do a lot with it. But there is also a documentation about the routing, the proxy mode, and the logging. And it's always interesting because, I mean, some features are not that obvious, so it can help too. I've exported the data I use for this demo in a GIST, so I can share this too, if some people are interested. And if you have questions, I'm here, and I'm really happy to help. If I can find my page. No, apparently not. Okay, that's the GIST page. Ah, no, get a profile. So you see my screen name is 255 kilobytes. Don't ask me why. And you can find me everywhere on Twitter, and I will be more than happy to help you. Or if you are using Mockoon, if you want to interview and give a little bit of time, you are also welcome. And if you want to sponsor my work, you can sponsor it too on GitHub.
Awesome.
And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That has been fantastic, Norris. Thanks so much, Guillaume. I think the tool is really, really cool, and I finally have a better way of doing API mocking than basically just building myself a small Express.js application. So
I hope
that's pretty cool. Also, I think if I remember correctly, no, actually I don't remember. I know for sure. 1st of October, so that's next week, Wednesday, Hacktoberfest starts. If you haven't heard about Hacktoberfest, Google it, hacktoberfest.com. It's an initiative where you can help open source projects like this one, for instance, by basically making some stuff happen in these open source projects. And if you do that, then you can get a t-shirt and stickers and cool stuff. So if you want to get started with open source, I'm sure Guillaume is very happy to help you getting started, which would be kind of
cool. Great.
Yeah.
I need to prepare the issues still.
Yeah, well, it's not 1st of October yet, so that's an opportunity. Will you join the after party chat as well?
Yeah, I will try a little bit. Yeah.
In that case, if there's questions, you can also ask there, or use the chat here for everyone. Hi, everyone who just joined or joined throughout the talk. Feel free to use the chat box over there to talk with us. Let's say hi. It's kind of fun to talk to others. Thanks so much, Guillaume. That was awesome.
Thank you.